So y'all remember at the start of the Olympics, it was it was talks about how the world was catching up and this team USA isn't good enough, and we were hearing the jokes if LeBron was on this team, this wouldn't be happening, and blah blah blah, this, that, and the third, and USA might not even make it to the gold medal game.
Slovenia versus Nigeria.
Here we are 2 weeks later, and we get USA versus France in the gold medal game for the Olympics.
As I've already coined, and I should go ahead and trademark this phrase, the USA's revenge.
Or does France get revenge from Napoleon?
That's another thing. If they win, that's also a turn you can go with. But I expect USA to beat France pretty easily.
All right, to any of our French listeners, I'm putting a big wager on here.
Big wager.
If France beat USA, y'all can have the Statue of Liberty back.
Oh, okay.
Y'all can have it back. Y'all can come get it.
And if we win, we get the Eiffel Tower.
Yes. We get the Eiffel Tower if we beat France in the gold medal game.
USA easy. And I think people should – it's always so under the radar because Kevin Durant just goes out there and does what he normally do. Shout out to KD. We just had a KD Hoover's Room on Wednesday through a halftime app. Shout out to halftime. It was a dope first room. But he's just over there quietly leading the team, scoring his buckets, being unguardable, and being the best player in the association.
Right. And shout out to France, who's
France.
This is France is like
really
you, as like you always like to say, France is one of those teams that had great continuity with their roster. Like Evan Fournier, Nick Batum,
TLC, Timothy Loire,
right. Rudy Gobert. They've played together for a long time. So
the only person they're missing now is Tony Parker.
So this isn't too surprising that this is happening, like that they get here, because if you have that longevity and that continuity with the same roster, it's eventually going to happen, right?
Yeah, for sure. So they've been waiting, and it's not surprised. It's like these teams have taken their turn because Argentina was it, and then Spain was it, and then
Australia was supposed to be
Australia or France was supposed to be the next one. But if you remember France, they won World Championship a couple of years ago. Tony Parker led them to that win, and that's when people really like, all right, they might can get in the gold medal game and maybe can compete against USA. So, and they got the right players to do it. Whenever you got a wing player that can get his own bucket, that means he can control the game. So Fournier is really important.
And then having that rim protector as well, and Gobert.
Yeah, they got. Those are two pieces you really need. So
now, with that being said, I'm John W.
Fresh X.
And it's the Hoopers Morning Run on the Off the Ball Network's Facebook page, our Twitter page, and YouTube page. Just search the Hoopers Pod or the Hoopers. So we're in NBA free agency. What is this? Day 2, 3, 2.5?
We're a couple days in.
I don't know. It's been a wild couple days. There's been some teams. The Lakers made basically a big overhaul on their team. Washington's done some stuff to get younger and better. Brooklyn has kind of surefied their bench, bringing in a certain point guard. DeMar DeRozan goes to Chicago. I know everybody on NBA Twitter seen the joke by now. It was a good joke. Like, y'all have a sense of humor sometimes.
Exactly right.
23 is retired.
DeMar DeRozan is now the best. Is he a shooting guard?
No, he's a small forward.
Okay, he's the best small forward in Chicago Bulls history now.
That's a subject for another day. But I get where you're going.
It's Scottie Pippen. He's absolutely not.
I get where you're going with this. I get where you're going with that.
Scottie Pippen.
But free agency is always a crazy time because, of course, it's always going to be money thrown around, and every year the salary cap seems to go up, which we always talk about how eventually I think the vet minimum this year is 10?
Yeah, somewhere close to that. I think we should. I'm glad you started that. We should start with saying, the money that players are receiving, the wages don't went up. So people are going to get paid certain numbers. It's going to look like, dang, he got that, but it's because the numbers are going up. And it's going to keep going up, especially since the report that they're going to seek a $75 billion deal.
TV deal.
So, TV deal, TV rights deal. So they're looking to
which
get
we also have a plan that the NBA and the WNBA should listen to.
Yeah, I ain't giving that out on here because somebody's going to steal it. We need a meeting with Adam Silver for sure. But the money that's coming in is just helping the salary go up. So starters are going to get $10 million. If you see somebody who is, he's going to be a starter or he's at least the first man off the bench, just don't be surprised to see him get $10 million. If someone has proven that they can score 19, 20 points per game, they're gonna get around $18 to $20 million a game. So certain numbers just look crazy, but that's the league now. So I'm glad we got to start there and put in. Some people are still getting stupid contracts. That that's always gonna happen.
Get the bag,
but you just got to understand the levels of where it's at.
And real quick, shout out to Edgar, New Tape City on Twitter for holding out the Off Ball Network's Twitter page and keeping the free agency movement updated, all the signings and trade, whatnot. So shout out to you, Edgar. You held it down for us for those crazy intense hours, which it was coming back to back to back, which is always funny to me because, of course, they can't start talking contracts until 6 o'clock, and everybody has a contract signed by 6:01.
Yeah, right. Tampering it down. I want to talk about it's okay.
No,
I wonder if it has to be some type of loophole where maybe you're not talking to the players, but you can talk to representatives or something. I don't know, because so many people should be getting fined for tampering if that was really the case, but we don't really care for real.
So
we just be waiting to see it happen.
So actually, let's get into free agency. Kemba goes to the Knicks, who kind of refires up their team, bringing back some players. And as you say, you like that because you bring back that continued success.
Right.
Julius Randle gets paid. Did you like that? Did you like you agree with the contract he got?
Yeah, because the talk that Julius Randle, so I want to look at it on two sides, because some people say that Julius Randle turned down a chance to get $200 million. And I want to start by saying Julius Randle was never going to sign a $200 million deal. The Knicks were never going to offer him a $200 million deal. That just is what it is. Unless he basically won MVP this year, it wasn't going to happen. So to get him, you extend his last contract, give him $117 million, which pushes the one $140 million. Also, before we get into that too, I also want to say nobody is against players signing the money. If they're gonna offer you $200 million, take the money. That's not what the conversation is about. You know what I mean? So, but to get him at that value, because I do think he could have gotten a little more. I don't think $200 million was his number, but it wouldn't have been outrageous to see him get 160, 170. So to get him around 140, you still able to be flexible with the other players that you sign, because they also bring in Fournier for $78 million, I think, which is around 19 a year that he's gonna make. Then you reward Derrick Rose and what he's gonna bring and extend his deal. But he's really around. You look at his number and people see the $34 million, but that's around $11 million a year. That's not a ton.
First man off.
It's not a ton of money. Alec Burke deal is 3 years, $30 million. That's 10 a year, not a ton of money. That's the deal. They just extended it a few years. They were giving folks 1 year deals. Now we're giving you 3 or 2 at an option or whatever, which I think is smart, because you're not necessarily chasing young players. You have the young players on the team that you want to build around, RJ Barrett, Obi, quickly. So they're there. So you want to keep those veterans so you can also win, because Tibbs don't want to just coach a young team. Right. And then the steal, though, because was getting Kemba. And I don't know how, he already, obviously, I don't know how long that this has been in the works. Right. But clearly when he knew he was about to get waived, that ended up happening. Right. So you clearly get an upgrade at point guard. You just need Kemba to be healthy, really, because to have him and Derrick Rose, he doesn't have to carry the load. And when Kemba was healthy last year, in a bad year, as people are saying he's had a bad year, he averaged 19 points. So that's a really good pickup. And I don't think he takes away from Quickly, because they can play together, just because Quickly got a little more size. And Kemba, Kemba's a talented player. He can move around, then you bring back Derrick Rose. So I like what the Knicks did. I don't think they necessarily got better as far as I
think they stayed.
As far as going to a championship.
No, I think they still stable.
I think they stayed the course. And if RJ takes the next step this year, Julius Randle keeps getting better, Obi gets better. That's how you get better. And now we competing for the second round. I saw some of the negative people said that, we went from a 4 seed to a play-in team, and even last year from 4 to 10 was all tight. And you saw how it was passing around. Atlanta was almost a play-in team. Right. So, that's just a negative way to really look at it. The Knicks, you're expecting young players to take another push because they got the experience to playoffs. And if RJ makes a jump this year, averages 22, 23 points per game, Julius keeps getting better, your team keeps getting better. So I like what the Knicks did, for sure.
No, yeah, I definitely do. So I think it makes their offense better as well. I think it gives Julius Randle and RJ Barrett a little more room to operate, especially RJ in the mid-range and attacking the basket. You still get Mr. Robinson comes back off of injury. So
exactly, I think Mr. Robinson back is
I would like to say, I don't know if this pushed the Knicks to a championship, but it definitely stabilized them or gets them to the second round.
Yeah, they should compete for the second round.
That's where they should be at.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I said, Washington Wizards, I think, did you see the Washington Wizards moves?
Yeah, I like that they added Dinwiddie. They clearly needed a
Point
point
guard.
guard. Since you trade Westbrook, you bring Dinwiddie in for 62, 3-year deal. You hope that Dinwiddie's healthy. I won't say that I'm not a fan of Dinwiddie. I'm not the biggest believer of his. Like, some people think he's all-star level. I don't think that.
Nah,
I
I think
do
he's
think he
stable.
looks. I think he is a great running mate for Bradley Beal, though. So I
Definitely.
think they work together. Um, I like what they got in the Lakers trade. So with Trez,
Yeah.
KCP. So the
Yeah.
Wizards have a team that to me competes for the play-in. I don't think they're necessarily a lot though to make the playoffs. So I think they're in the play-in position again.
Right.
Unless certain people go to another level. Dinwiddie has to show he's healthy, obviously. Right. But they shouldn't be terrible next year.
Right. And like I said, trading Westbrook, they also bring in Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell,
Exactly. And I keep getting
KCP. I think with those mix of players, I think KCP. I don't know if he's going to start or not. I think
perfect backup for Brad.
Right. Because I think Ryu is kind of situated in that starting spot right there anyway.
That's kind of him because don't him and Kuz kind of play? They're both fours. Ryu is a forward, really. So
Kuz was still probably coming off the bench.
That's the only thing I wonder about.
Unless they think one of them can play the 3 while Denny is out.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you still also have Montrezl Harrell who's going to need minutes right there. But I think Kuz is a perfect player because now he's in a situation where he can find scoring opportunities again and he can kind of have a whole unit to himself, or he can just have shots to himself, even if he is a starter.
And I think Trez, he's definitely going to be a forward, but I can see him as a backup center in the East.
Yeah.
The East typically has shorter players. You got Embiid, obviously, Capella, but I don't think it's as many.
It's not as many. Yeah,
it just feel like it's not as many trees in the West. You got Jokic, you got AD, you gonna go Steven Adams, Nurk, even Adams. Didn't he just got traded
to Memphis? Yeah,
so he's still in the West. Still in the West. Even Valanciunas, Gobert.
Right, Utah has Gobert and Hassan Whiteside.
It's a lot of tall players in the West.
Yeah, it's part of the big man. No, yeah,
so Trez probably could be a better Eastern center.
Right,
sure.
But I think that was, like I said, I think that's a good move for Washington. I think they're trying to help Westside Sell, the new head coach, move into the right direction. Like say, I think they can be a 6 seed. I think Bradley Beal with this young mix of talent can get them there. Let's say bringing in Spencer Dinwiddie, definitely go find a backup point guard for that. KCP is a good 3-and-D backup. Maybe find him some starter minutes. Him and Brad just go 2 wings like that.
Yeah, I definitely think they can compete for. Like if they were 6, I wouldn't be surprised, but it wouldn't shock me if they finish 8 either. So I can see them in that 6 to 8. When I say play-in range, I'm thinking 8 seed. It just goes to the 10. Yeah. I'm not necessarily thinking they'll be a 10, but definitely 6 to 8 range for sure. You bring back Bradley Beal, so
Thomas Bryant should be back next year.
And I applaud the moves that they're making because a lot of people are, even I'm one. You wonder about Brad's motivation to, keep committing to the team and. I don't think they made that one to put them over the top yet, but I think the team it looks better this year than it does last year. Even like you added some players that's going to help you defensively, which is always the problem. I think they're a few pieces away, and I think they should move on from Scott Brooks, but they're probably having that this year.
I mean, they already moved on from Scott Brooks.
I mean, my bad. Moving on from Scott Brooks helps what they're doing with this year. My bad. Yeah. So bringing him in, but thinking more defensively on this team.
Oh no, yeah, I definitely agree. Like I said, I think it's a competitive team, if nothing else.
Right. So yeah.
Let's get to the other side of this trade real quick with the Lakers bringing in Westbrook. Just the Lakers probably made the biggest overhaul of their whole roster this offseason more than any other team. Bringing in Carmelo, Malik Monk on a minimum contract. Say Westbrook in a trade. Mm-hmm. Who else did they get?
You brought back Dwight Howard on a minimum deal. Those are the main signings I can think. Oh, and they brought in Kendrick Nunn also.
Wayne Ellington. I know of course the jokes are coming out about this being a retirement home team, this retirement super team, but they did sign some good young players on the wing in Malik Monk and bringing back THT and signing Kendrick Nunn.
So it's really been 2 sides to the Lakers. It's been the people calling them old, and it's been people that's like, who's going to beat the team? And I think the Lakers
are somewhere in the middle.
Right. I'm in the middle of that because I don't think they're too old. For one, because they're competing for a championship, and Westbrook, obviously, he isn't that. They just look at the 30-year-olds and they're saying they're old because they're 30. Right. Westbrook's like 32. Right. So you got him and AD. But when you compete for a championship, you really don't have a use for young players, but I think they have a good amount of young players that they need. Like
I think they have good serviceable young players.
Right. I love that they brought in Kendrick Nunn because he can step in and start when you need him to start, even if it's playing with Westbrook. I think he can play with Westbrook, but I think he'd be really good off the bench. And I like that this opportunity for Malik Monk.
Love it. That's my favorite one. That might be my favorite sign.
The scoring that he could bring for them, like he could be Jordan Clarkson for them. And I hope he can kind of embrace that role and stay healthy. Right, so I like what they did. That you bring in Melo. Melo kind of replaces what Kuz was supposed to do. So I like what the Lakers did. You obviously they lost Drummond, so you bring Dwight Howard back, who's going to be a good backup. I think they still kind of got a problem with starting center because Mark is solid. No disrespect to Mark, the legend. He's going to the Hall of Fame, but he's really done. You can even see that in the Olympics. He looked pretty bad in the Olympics. No disrespect. So I think, and you don't want Dwight to start. And AD coming off a rough year, you don't want him to be your center full time. So the Lakers really kind of need a starting center. I think that's what they're lacking the most.
Yeah, starting center. Yeah, I think, and that's kind of been the thing the last couple of years, even. With Dwight and JaVale McGee on championship year, they needed a star center.
But they were solid that year because I feel like JaVale McGee was serviceable to play in those minutes. That during the regular season, they were serviceable.
During the regular season, yeah.
And then in the playoffs, you can get away with AD playing center. I'm just saying even for the regular season, I don't think
you don't think they're good enough for the regular season.
I don't think Mark is good enough for the regular season.
Maybe Dwight gets some of those stuff. Maybe they split them and try to figure out a way to get AD a couple of starts at the 5.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Lakers are going. I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking for a center. I don't know who else is out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were looking for a center.
But I think this is a good Lakers team. I think this is a Lakers team that can definitely compete for a championship, if not win one. I like Carmelo coming off the bench. I think that's a sneaky good sign that people are going to overlook because it's like, they're only looking at the friendship part of it.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good look for Melo, and I think that's something I'd like to say he's going to do what Kuz does, but I think he's going to do it better and more consistent than what Kuz can do because I think LeBron is going to actually try to get him the ball and make sure the ball finds his hand a lot on offense.
Right. Yeah, it was times when Kuz would come up short for them. It was certain shots that he wasn't making. Melo, he kind of was doing that for Portland, even in games when he was having a tough game. When he had a tough game, he made a lot of big shots for them in the past few years. So I think that definitely transitions to the Lakers. LeBron's going to get him some shots. It's cool to see they finally get to play on the team together. That's definitely a cool thing because, being in that era, I can, remember them coming up. I remember the first game, the Oak Hill, St. Vincent St. Mary game and, everything with the draft and all that stuff. So it's cool to see them at both the end of their careers. Now they get to play together. I'm not picking the Lakers to win the championship. I'm not picking no one right now, obviously, but it would be even cool to see not even just Melo get his first championship, but them to win
one together.
That'd definitely be cool for sure. Right. I wonder if when Melo went there, even though Chris Paul, obviously you're smart, and I'm just thinking about this when it ain't Leonard part. I wanted to see Melo sign that make him think, dang, I should have considered going to the Lakers. After you get Westbrook, they made a trade, but Westbrook is over because it's clearly clear that Chris Paul is going to sign back.
Right,
but
he wasn't taking the vet, man.
Right, yeah,
he was taking the vet. He was not.
But I mean, they brought in Westbrook, who has a big contract. So if they move some money around, clearly they can afford it. Chris Paul is only making $30 a year. He's only making $30 a year for sure. So he probably didn't think about it at all. But I'm just saying because it's been around that they wanted to play together, and he's the only one that didn't play with any of them now at this point because LeBron and Wade play together. Obviously now Melo and Brian need to play together. Yeah. So
only Chris Paul's the only one that's left out.
Yeah. So hey, shout out to the Lakers.
On to the Chicago Bulls, who's seeing the guy in their starting point guard.
Yeah, the NBA Twitter's favorite free agent.
Yeah, he was. And then they also got their wing scorer to go along with Zach LaVine and also another playmaker. This Chicago Bulls lineup is going to be real interesting because they do have a mix of good. They got a mix of good wing scoring and low post scoring with Vucevic, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan, and Patrick Williams is a young player that everybody's high on, like say Lonzo Ball is.
He was great as they start for. He should be.
He is a stretch four for them. Definitely. And then Lonzo Ball, like you say, NBA Twitter favorite free agent. It's gonna be a lot of expectations on the Bulls coming into the year.
Playoffs.
playoffs.
Yeah, they got to make the playoffs this year. Play in situation, but they should be competing for the playoffs. I see some teams taking a step back. Indiana. I
Yeah,
don't know how much better they're gonna be this year. Charlotte.
yeah.
I don't really know how much better Charlotte is gonna be. We'll see. But the Bulls have clearly put together a veteran team. Um, so they got to be thinking. You got to be thinking playoffs. You got DeMar. You got Zach LaVine, and Zach LaVine, who now he's about to be. You can see Zach LaVine making that transition. He's made his first All Star. He's in that Devin Booker stage where those players, as you start being amongst the greatest players, you do start getting the itch to win, and not necessarily the lead, but you get the itch just to win. Right. So that's why you bring in Vucevic, you bring in DeMar, because it's like, all right, we want to start competing for the playoffs. I don't think they're gonna make a jump like Phoenix and make a run to the finals, but this Bulls team, if everyone's clicking how they should, you would think a lot of teams are going to be competing for that 6th seed, and I think they're right there with it. Vooch, wasn't he the All-Star last year?
Mm-hmm.
So he and they were consistent playoff teams too in Orlando. Like, they got overlooked. I know they didn't make it past the first round, but they made it 2-3 years in a row.
Right.
So
which was a big part of the reason they was getting there.
Right. So and you bring in Lonzo, who's now, he's still a young player, but he's making that next step. So I think they're thinking playoffs.
No, and I think Billy Donovan is going to be a coach that can also get the most out of Lonzo Ball. He seems to work well with point guards. Like, he had a good season with Westbrook. Helped Westbrook get MVP his last year in OKC with Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous. So I think this is a good team. I think it's a good mix of young players and vet players. I think Kobe White coming off the bench is the perfect situation for everybody, fans included, because now you don't have to worry about him running the team or making plays for everybody else. He can come in and kind of find his own shot.
He's the wild card for me because I hope he embraces coming off the bench, because as a guy that's had the ball in his hands, he gets to start, but you get to come off the bench and lead a unit. And I think it'd even be, opportunities where he can end some halves, maybe he can end some games if he's feeling it. So I think I hope he embraces that, because players are still getting paid off the bench too. So you can get paid, and y'all can build something there, because it's clearly talent there. If you got a strong starting five, that's just where it starts at. And they have a good starting five. I mean, they have 2 players last year that made the All-Star team, and DeMar was an All-Star about 2 or 3 seasons ago. I don't think he made one in San Antonio, but he's not that far removed. But he did average 27 and like 5. So to have that in your starting lineup, a young player like Patrick Williams made a guard multiple people, and Lonzo was basically 15 and 8 last year, 40% from 3.
Good defense.
So having that starting five, and then you got one player off the bench that at least going to provide you scoring off the bench, that's a recipe to make the playoffs. So, and if you're a part of that, you can get paid in the long run. So I hope Kobe embraces that role.
No, yeah, definitely. But with all these signings for Chicago, Lauri Markkanen seems to be the odd man out. But he's also seen to be showing some interest in Charlotte, and that interest is mutual. I think everybody was saying that Charlotte needed a big man who can actually run the pick and roll with not Lonzo, but LaMelo, one with solid hands or that can stretch the floor as well. Lauri Markkanen has been a weird player in the NBA. Like, he had a good rookie season, which we thought we was going to see more of. He's been kind of up and down ever since then, but he is a good scorer. He can score in the post. He can score off the pick and pop. Where would he put Charlotte at if he was to sign in Charlotte? They were a play-in team last year.
Right.
Can he kind of help push them back to that, or maybe a secure playoff spot?
See, Charlotte is a team. They just signed Kelly Oubre also. Yeah. I think Lauri Markkanen does help them. I just don't know how much better they get. You clearly need LaMelo to get better.
Definitely.
Again this year, and you want to see if Terry Rozier, what type of next step he makes.
Definitely.
But Lauri Markkanen definitely helps them, because I think he could be, 16, 18 points per game, and he can shoot a good percentage from 3. And he's a 7-footer. If you get him to, commit to just being a solid rim protector, it's good lineups you can run with him and PJ Washington out there.
Definitely.
So he helps Charlotte for sure, and I think he keeps them in the play-in area. The thing is, I guess since you made the play-in last year, some people may have wanted to see them take a next jump, and I don't think they do that, but I don't think they fall to the bottom of the league.
Right. And like I say, also brought in Kelly Oubre, who also helped bring in a little more athleticism and shooting. I know he had a tough year in Golden State last year, but if you remember that the year before that in Phoenix, he was basically 18-7 on pretty decent shooting splits.
Did he start that year?
Yeah, he started at the fourth that year.
Yeah, I think he would come off the bench if they get Lloyd Martin in. And I think that helps him, though, because, like you said, he averaged 18 there. He shot a good percentage. I think him, Miles Bridges off the bench, some time with LaMelo, they're going to look good. And I can't remember his name, but the rookie they brought in, that's a strong, solid bench unit. So I definitely like Oubre going there. Good redemption year for him.
And shout out to Charlotte, who's actually trying to build a competitive team, and that's what they've been building towards since they've honestly changed back to the Hornets.
Come on, man. That's Michael Jordan, man. He was going to figure it out. Like, people expected him to win a championship in his first 5 years. Think about it. Jordan really only been an owner. I mean, he's getting up there. But he's been an owner about 10 years. He's made the playoffs a couple of times. He just hasn't put together a championship team. And people just think about the situation with the Wizards, but he was only the GM for a year and he started playing. Like, he really hasn't even had an opportunity to build something. So I ain't saying that they're going to win a championship in Charlotte, and he obviously needed to figure out the right people to put around him, but he just needed a chance to learn to do it.
That's fair. I guess you see all the bad draft picks, which I was wondering the other day.
They drafted, man, look, players don't work out. They drafted the player that, like, people get on them for drafting Adam Morrison. Like, nobody else was going to draft Adam Morrison. He averaged 30 points per game. He was going to be a top 5 pick that year. Like, they just the one that did it.
But I was wondering about that because I know, of course, the owner put money into it. He has to approve of certain deals and whatnot. But it does seem like sometimes, like, the owner Jordan not drafting these players. Of course, you're like, yo, Jordan, what you think?
Yeah,
but it's like, no, owners aren't drafting these players. They aren't necessarily making these free agency picks. I always wonder, like, why are we throwing the owner name into it when it comes to those certain moves?
Because it's Michael Jordan, but
any owner.
But to be fair, the flag that Jordan took is because some people didn't think he stepped out of his comfort zone to pick the right people in certain positions. So he just gave he gave certain people jobs when you should have looked differently. But you saw he was stepping out there even with their last hire. He brought in Mitch Kupchak, who, he got people kind of get on him because of the ending run with the Lakers, when really it wasn't his fault. It was Jim Buss's fault. But Mitch was building solid teams for the league. He built a championship team there in LA. And if you look at the players that that he was drafting, that they were saying were terrible, they all signed major deals the last 2 years. Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson. Larry Nance got a 4-year, $45 million deal. Kuz got a 3-year, like, all them boys signed deals. None of them are out the league. Josh Hart is going to he's a solid player.
He's the one that hasn't signed back.
Well, I don't think he brought in Josh Hart. I mean, Magic brought in Lonzo, but like Jordan Clarkson and those players, they were under the Mitch Kupchak thing. So bringing in Mitch was a good move for.
I definitely agree. I remember people disagree with that, but I definitely agree.
It was because of the end with the Lakers and the stuff with Jim Buss, but that was Jim Buss. He the owner. You gonna do what he say?
No. Those are facts. The Hawks made a couple small minor tweaks. Well, not even necessarily tweaks. They just brought players back, re-up some players. Trae Young signed a big contract.
Yeah, 168, 200 if he hit the Supermax.
John Collins got his contract, the one that was already offered to him. That he could have took a week ago.
Yeah, and I saw on NBA Twitter, I don't want to take the credit for it, but I just fully agree with that. Somebody was like, maybe John wanted to take the deal, but he had some stat lines that nobody else had, so his agent was probably trying to get him to hold out for more, or he don't even know sometimes, and then you hear reports, and then you call your agent like, man, take that money. So, because John, he wanted to stay in Atlanta.
And I just had an interesting thought real quick now, because he signed literally right after Trae Young. What if that was the whole thing? What if that was a part of it too? He wanted to make sure Trae got what he deserved or what he's earned as well.
Yeah, and you want to see what he was gonna get, because Trae clearly was gonna get the most money.
No, yeah, definitely.
He clearly was gonna get the most money, but I just think it was a situation for his agent. I'm not, I don't know his agent, but it's a situation for his agent. The agent's gonna try and get the most money. He gonna say, hey, John was the only player that averaged this, and this in the league the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So, we need to up that deal a little bit. But you see, he's right around, Julius Randle got 140, and he finished third in the MVP.
He's right. And honestly, I always thought that was the contract he was gonna get anyway. Like, because he hasn't, he haven't been an all-star yet. I know he was all rookie, but he hasn't done anything. He got some stats, but he hasn't done anything else to push his contract to that next level.
Yeah, he's still going up, and I said on one of the last fly throughs with Jelani shot what the game means to me, Paul Jelani Brown. I said on one of those I could see John getting around 130, 120 is a solid deal for him. So
yeah, definitely. No, yeah, definitely. Of course, Solomon
They
Hill.
brought back Lou.
Yeah, brought back Lou and Solomon Hill. So they basically went with continuity as well. I think that was the whole thing with Travis Schlink. Like he wants to make sure that this roster, like they know this roster, we know who we are, we know what our identity is. So we want to bring y'all back. We had that success, and we want to continue success. And already having a core of young players who you know can provide you good minutes in the regular season and the playoffs. You don't really want to mess with that too much.
Yeah, and they made their moves last year. They gave 4-year deal to Bogdanovich, 4 years to Gallinari. So you sign those players, then you kind of just go to young players. They had a solid draft, and you just build on what you had last year.
All right. I don't remember who it was on Twitter. That was like, because Luke could have signed for the vet minimum, but signed this kind of puts him in favor with other players and free agent, their agents. So when it is, you up free agency, maybe you do consider Atlanta more because Travis Schlink has got to look out for everybody. He's got to make sure you can get as much as you can while still helping the team sign other players and, be committed to winning.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Kawhi's of course, hasn't signed yet, so he's the big name still out there. And I was having a thought because, of course, he's probably going to miss most of the year, not all the year. If I'm not going to play the year, would you sign a contract? Or would you just kind of, just pick up your option and whatever?
That's the weird thing. And Kawhi seems like one of them dudes that wouldn't sign, but he's more likely going to sign because I think he's not going to miss the whole season. No. But maybe he's waiting to see what other moves that the Clippers are going to make. I know they're bringing back Serge, but what else have they really done? Because didn't they lose Batum?
No, Batum came back.
They basically but you lost Marquise Morris. Yeah, they lost Marcus Morris. Wait, who signed with Miami?
No, the Lakers.
Oh, Marquise signed with the Lakers. Okay.
I get it mixed
up.
My
bad. I got that completely mixed up. That changes how I feel about that signing also. I thought it was Marcus Morris. That's my bad. I really did.
You said change it.
That changes how I feel about that a little bit. But so yeah, you bringing back pretty much everybody except Reggie Jackson. They still need a point. Definitely. Maybe he's trying to see what money they're gonna have after signing the point, but maybe he's considering leaving. If Kawhi left right now,
where would he go?
Yeah, that's the thing. Where would he go? Because I'm saying like, what was his options before Miami? Don't seem like they're looking for nobody else. Knicks, I don't think they're looking. So I wonder where would Kawhi?
Yeah, I don't know. But I want to say this: the conversation that's been going on about Kawhi over the past couple of days is like super whack. Like this man has a torn ACL, and y'all saying he's being funny because he was misdiagnosed. Like this man has had 2 major leg injuries in his short career. And y'all are upset that he was upset that the team didn't diagnose his injury correct. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
yeah, that's literally why they're there to diagnose his injury.
He tore his ACL, and before they knew that's what it was, they told him it wasn't that bad. It wasn't gonna be that bad. They were calling it a sprain at first. So it was like that's a big difference if you ask me, honestly.
Right.
Like, I ain't a doctor, but that's a big difference.
Sprain to a partially torn ACL. Yeah.
Like, so that the conversation that's been going on about that is like super whack. I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. Like, y'all need to he hurt. Like, we all know Kawhi has a knee problem that's gonna bother him for the rest of his career. So when he gets hurt, why do y'all do this every time he get hurt? And we know that's what it is. He has to load manage. He has to miss time just to manage his knee so he can play in the playoffs. Like, it is what it is. Like, y'all chill out on though. But back to free agency, there were some teams who didn't make any moves and just kind of stayed pat with what they had. Portland was one of those teams who I don't recall them doing anything. Denver
just re-signed Norman Powell.
Yeah, re-signed Norman Powell. Denver didn't do much of anything. Milwaukee's brought back Bobby Portis, but they lost PJ Tucker. Of course, Milwaukee just won a championship, but Portland, first round exit. When the teams don't make moves in free agency, but they don't really have the means to take an advanced step, what is that really putting out there, honestly?
Yeah, that means that their roster is kind of strapped, but that just means your GM not being aggressive. Also, I get you don't want to bring in a ton of new players because you got a new coach, but the team isn't necessarily getting better. You lost Carmelo. I'm not the biggest fan of Zach Collins, but they lost him also. You do bring back Norman Powell, so you see what a full year in training camp looks like with him. But other than that, if I'm Portland, I mean, you got to be thinking of some type of trades you trying to make, or maybe it's a player out there you trying. I don't know who's left that they're gonna sign.
That's what Kawhi trying to go.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Maybe they're trying to steal Kawhi or something. But it is disappointing that Portland hasn't. You know, they had a kind of an active summer last year whenever free agency was, and people liked the moves that they made, but they still had some injury issues. I like, you know, because Norman Powell had a good year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I get why you want to see what he provides you for a whole year. But I think Portland, I don't know what they need because I haven't really thought about their roster for real, but I do know that they need to get better because, you know, you got Dame, he's going to get antsy.
Right, he's going to get antsy, but it's also like, we know we got Dame, so at the minimum, we're a playoff team. Mm-hmm. You're hoping CJ can stay healthy for a full 82. You're hoping Nurk can stay healthy for a full 82, and you go from there, I guess. But right. Portland should have definitely figured out some more moves to make.
I don't mind players staying committed and, you know, it just don't work out. People get hurt. You get your opportunities and you lose. I just don't like when the franchises are doing something to at least improve the players. You don't expect them to sign a big name every year. You don't expect everybody to always be getting $100 million deal. But it's always somebody you can bring in to keep. You got to be trying to make your team better every year.
Right, definitely. Brooklyn.
I think they should move on from Nurk, honestly. He's always hurt, so.
Yeah, that's.
I would just
honestly, that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah,
moving Nurk, I think they can get more value out of Nurk. Well, not more value, but I think they feel better trading Nurk than trade CJ. I feel like it's gonna come down to one of those.
Yeah, I get why they don't want to move CJ because it's hard to replace that. But he is their most valuable asset. But if you can get some out of Nurk and some picks, I would do that.
Yeah, definitely. Say Brooklyn signed Patty Mills to shore up their benches after losing Spencer Dinwiddie. I would say on Twitter, I think that Steve Nash should find it in the game somewhere when Patty is in there to let him be electric Patty Mills and just kind of let him do what he does. I think he was I don't think he was held back in San Antonio. I think he played a role that fit the team best, but I think he could do a little more. And I think this team and this offense can provide that for him, especially in some pick and roll opportunities. Do you think do you think he makes that bench much better?
Yeah, for sure. I think he's an upgrade from Spencer because for one, Spencer clearly was a player that wanted to be a starter and wanted to be an all-star. And I don't blame him because, you know, it's a lot of benefits that come with that. But Pat is going to know his role, that he's the backup point guard. And I do think he had a chance to have a big role in San Antonio. If you remember when he was part of that push when they won that championship, he was really good off the bench. But then he got paid and he kind of got hurt. And then they kind of shifted the team. On a team that's for sure competing for a championship, I think he looks good for them. And then obviously, he's not the same as Steve Nash, but just size and how they move, he could look similar to him. So I know Steve
Kyrie,
Nash,
like he'd be a good. Yeah. Like I think if they would have had Pat Mills in the playoffs this past year after Kyrie got hurt, I don't think you said it wouldn't.
No, it would have been a big difference.
I think like I say he doesn't do the same things Kyrie does, but he can fill in some of that offense, especially with his shooting.
He'll give you some buckets. He ain't gonna squeeze 27 on 50, 40, 90, but he'll give you 19, 18. Patrick Mills, he would have made a big big difference for the team for sure. So I definitely think Steve Nash is going to have some packages for him to run the second unit, especially because you want him to be comfortable when you take James and Kyrie off, and you can even have some times when him and KD is out there for sure. So he definitely helps them. Yeah, he definitely helps them.
That's going to be scary, him and KD on the court at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Miami Heat, who you brought up a little while ago with the Morris side, and they made a couple moves to help reshore that team up, bringing in Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker off his championship run with the Milwaukee Bucks, Markieff Morris. Sorry, twin, I don't know which one, but Markieff Morris. They lose Kendrick Nunn. Of course, they signed Victor Oladipo back. He's probably going to be the lead guard off that bench unit with him and Tyler Hero, which they got to need because Tyler Hero hasn't. I don't think he's ready to be a playmaker yet. Just this put Miami in the top three and kind of puts them back in that, keeps them in that 4 to 6 range.
Right. Re-signed Duncan Robinson. Hey, man, kids want
the $90 million shooter.
$90 million for him. Bertans got 85 last year, 80. Work on your jump shots.
Facts.
I don't know if this puts them in the top 3, but I'm definitely putting them at the top of the East because Miami was just in the championship, and the most 2 important players from that team. Really, the most 3 important players from that team, Dragic was important, but Duncan Robinson, I think, was more important. Bam, Duncan Robinson and Jimmy are all back, and I think we know what to expect from them next year. I agree with everyone on NBA Twitter that think their defense is going to be really good because Kyle Lowry is a pest defensively. And I also think he's a good point guard for the team because he runs the team. He can kind of play with other guards. He don't necessarily have to dominate the ball. I think this definitely puts them right there because I don't think no one in the East is invisible. We saw that last year. I mean, everyone's going to be high on the Bucks right now, but I'm not going to pretend like we didn't almost see them get eliminated. Philly dominated a lot of the regular season, but then Atlanta exposed certain things about them. And Brooklyn showed that they have no depth, and that matters. And I don't think they still haven't really completely addressed their depth. You just expect KD, Kyrie, and James to be healthy, and they brought back Blake. So it's still wide open. In the East, if you got the right players, the right team, you could do it. And Miami is definitely a team that went back down from Brooklyn, Philly, or Milwaukee. And Milwaukee got their revenge last year, but the Bucks definitely lost to Miami also. So it wouldn't be surprised to see that happen again. So I think they're up there. Is that top? Brooklyn, for me, Brooklyn, Philly, the Bucks, Miami, and then they're the four right there that I feel comfortable saying to be the top four seeds.
Yeah.
Then the next for me is like Atlanta, New York, and Boston because you got two All-Stars on Boston. Both can give you 25. I ain't gonna disrespect Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They figure some things out up there. They're right there in that mix, and so, Washington has potential, but I will put Atlanta, New York, and Boston a little bit ahead of them. So
okay.
I would definitely. So to answer your question, I don't think I put them in the top three necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish in the top three because I think it's four up there.
All right. And before we get out of here, I just want to say real quick, Boston, who you just brought up, hasn't really made any moves. Of course, they brought back Al Horford. They brought back Enes Kanter.
His last 4 teams have been Portland, Boston, Portland, Boston.
But they haven't made – they didn't make a move to bring in a point guard yet. And there's still 2 point guards out there, Reggie Jackson and Dennis Schroeder. They've been talking about bringing back Isaiah Thomas. Which one of those?
Have they really been talking about bringing back Isaiah Thomas?
They say they have.
Have they? Okay.
They say it's an actual real thing this year.
I respect it.
I think it's more real than them actually trying to trade for Miles Turner at this point.
Maybe it was Danny Ainge.
That's what I was thinking. But they haven't addressed the point guard position yet. Like I said, Dennis Schroeder, Reggie Jackson are still out there. Which one would you be? Which would be the better signing, I guess, real quick?
Right. Well, it's funny because it actually seemed like it was some decent point guards out there because they could have brought in Kendrick Nunn.
Yep.
They should have been competing for Kyle Lowry.
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Spencer. So, but you're down to Reggie and
Schroeder.
Dennis.
Yeah.
I would probably want to bring in Reggie unless you're for sure going to start Marcus Smart. And then I'm cool with Dennis being, he was just in the 6 man of the year. Coming out the bench is the best role for him. I told everyone that he wasn't going to work as a later starting point guard this year. A lot of people didn't believe it because he had the big year in OKC. They thought he was revised, a new player, but I saw him as a starting point guard for the Atlanta Hawks, and he wasn't a starting point guard, but he is dynamic off the bench. So
that's fair.
Commit to Marcus Smart as a starting point guard and bring in Dennis Schroeder.
That's right.
And since it's so far, you probably get him on a 1-year deal for about $15 million. $10 million at this point.
That's fair. I think
you can get him on a good deal too. So
I think Reggie Jackson would be a better option, but they definitely do need to bring in a point guard.
Definitely not mad at that either.
Because, like I say, Mark, even regardless if you move Marcus Smart to point guard, you don't have a backup point guard now.
Right, yeah.
And so,
yeah, Reggie would be a good backup too for them too.
Which kind of moving Marcus Smart, unless you want to, I don't know who you're going to start now. That kind of shifts everybody's position as well because now you come into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum at the 2 and the 3 instead of the 3 and the 4.
Yeah.
I'm
cool. I ain't worried about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but it is a matter of because that's like, all right, who will be the starting 4 now? So I get what you mean with the domino effect. I'm cool with Jason Tatum playing the 2 and the 3 or the 3 and the 4. I'm cool with either one of those. They gonna be all right. Them two, I ain't worried about.
It's just that last starter,
then
that'll determine the rotation.
Because I'm also cool with Marcus Smart at point, but
he was drafted as a point guard.
But then it's like, all right, so who would their starting 4 be?
Who would their starting 2 be?
I mean, if they
You
went
go-
Marcus, Jalen, and Jason
Jason
Tatum,
Tatum, yeah.
who would start at the 4 for them? I don't know.
Yeah.
And when I know when Jalen was out, they started Romeo. But is Romeo ready to be starting too? And you go Marcus, Romeo, Jalen, Jason, Robert Williams. I don't like that lineup. And I'm a big fan of Romeo.
No,
He
not
hasn't
right
shown
now.
much
Anyway.
yet in the NBA yet, though. But maybe just his opportunity too.
No, yeah. Sometimes all you do need is that opportunity.
And Romeo is a bucket. Like, please believe he can get buckets.
But like I said, there was other moves made. If you want to get caught up on all those moves, go check out the Off the Ball Network's Twitter page with a new 4-letter network you need to be watching. But you got anything else?
Now, other than that, shout out to Summer League so far. I said I wasn't gonna watch Summer League, and I found myself watching it. Davion Mitchell has looked really good. Like, I like watching him play. I plan on watching Sharif Cooper and the Hawks play. So shout out to everyone out there in Summer League trying to get you a contract. It's grind season for those players. I'm actually gonna tune into some games after saying I wasn't. But just as always, appreciate anyone that took your time to watch. We dropped the pod last week, 73. Go check that out anywhere podcasts are available. Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the places. Probably got another one coming soon. It's Friday, so Hoopers Hour every Monday and Friday, 8 p.m. Definitely specifically catch us on Monday for Off the Ball Network Mondays, where we got you from 11 to 1, and then at 8 o'clock that night, all Off the Ball Network content. But then y'all catch us here again next week for the Hoopers Morning Run on Off the Ball Network's Facebook page, the Hoopers YouTube page, and our Twitter page.
Like I said, and don't forget, catch us Wednesday on the halftime app for the Hoopers Room.
Yeah, that's new. So definitely come in. We haven't put out whose room is going to be yet, but every week we're going to just talk about a different player. It's just going to be about one player. I mean, it may be more than one player or more than one team, but we're going to have one topic and we're just going to discuss them. We did KD for the first one and started his career in Seattle up to a little bit in Brooklyn. So we'll probably drop the room like Sunday or Monday.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a post by Sunday or Monday about who it is. So I got an idea who I want to be. I don't know if you do or not.
We'll see. So download the halftime app, download the Dash Radio app, download both those apps so you can get your Hoopers fix.
With that being said, I'm John W.
And it's Fresh X.
This was the Hoopers Morning Run.
Catch y'all next week, players.